All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we've got this incredible story about dedication, about failure, and you guessed it, a completely unexpected comeback. I mean, imagine pouring 3 decades of your life into one single project, only to just walk away. That's exactly what one developer did. But what looked like the end of the road? Yeah, that was actually just the beginning. So this was the headline that just grabbed us. Why I abandoned my 30-year open source project. It sounds so final, doesn't it? Like a story of complete and utter defeat. But that's not the whole story. Not even close. This isn't really about giving up on an idea. It's about how that idea's time, against all odds, has finally come. So let's get right to it. Was the project really abandoned? Well, yes and no. And that's the first big twist in this story. See, the developer did walk away from something, but it wasn't his core belief. It was the tool he built to serve that belief, a tool that had just gotten way too complex. So on one hand, you have the tool, this thing called Jamal, a huge enterprise-grade piece of software that had become, well, a monster. That's what got abandoned. But on the other hand, you have the idea, PET, which stands for Program Enhanced Text. And that's the philosophy he never ever gave up on. Okay, so what exactly is this idea that he's stuck with for 30 years? PET, Program Enhanced Text. You know, on the surface, it sounds kind of simple, but in practice, it's incredibly powerful, especially if you're someone who writes code or technical documentation. At its heart, PET is all about fighting inconsistency. You've been there, right? You're reading the docs, you copy a little code snippet, and it doesn't work. It's broken. Why? Because the code changed, but nobody updated the manual. The whole philosophy of PET is simple. If a piece of info, like a version number, already exists in the code, you should never, ever copy-paste it. You automate it. Think about it. The old way is just a recipe for disaster. You copy some code, the source code gets updated later, and boom, your docs are now straight up lying to your users. But the PET way is a total game changer. Instead of copying, you just insert a little reference, a macro that points directly to the source file. So whenever you regenerate the docs, it pulls in the latest code automatically. Your documentation is always in sync. You have one single source of truth. Of course, an idea this big doesn't just pop into existence. Realizing this whole PET philosophy, well, that was a 30-year journey of building and then rebuilding the tools to make it all work. It all started way back in 1996 with a simple 300-line Perl script, also called Jamal. And hey, it worked. Then, around the mid-2010s, he tried again with a Python tool. But the final form, that was the Java version of Jamal. And this thing was a beast. We're talking a true engineering marvel with over 200 macros, a debugger, the whole shebang. It was meant to be the perfect, ultimate tool for PET. And that was the problem. So you've got this technically brilliant, incredibly powerful tool, and almost nobody was using it. It was this perfect solution that just couldn't get any traction. And the question is, why not? The developer didn't have to look far for the answer. I mean, the proof was right there in his own GitHub profile. He had this other project, a simple little library with over 600 stars. And then there was Jamal, his 30-year passion project, with just 63. That's a 10-to-1 difference. The message was loud and clear. Complexity was killing adoption. And this quote from him, it just nails the human reason behind those numbers. At the end of the day, what are developers judged on? Shipping code that works. Documentation, accuracy, that's usually secondary. A big complex tool like Jamal, no matter how powerful, just felt like one more thing to learn. One more thing that could break the entire build. It was solving a problem that most developers just weren't being rewarded for solving. Okay, so the story should probably end right there. Noble idea, tool was too complex, lesson learned, move on. But then, something happened. Something so unexpected, it changed the entire game. Because for years, this was the fundamental question that made the whole PET philosophy seem like a lost cause. I mean, let's be honest. Why spend all this energy making documentation absolutely perfect if most people are just going to skim it anyway? If your audience doesn't really care about that level of precision, why should you?
Because all of a sudden, your documentation has a brand new reader, an audience that doesn't skim, an audience that reads every single word, every character. Large language models, the AIs behind tools like ChatGPT, they read everything.
And this changes absolutely everything. Your docs are no longer just for people. They're training data for AI. And unlike a human who can kind of guess what you meant, an AI needs total precision. The author saw this himself. When he fed his own docs to ChatGPT, it started hallucinating, just making stuff up. But when he added a precise, formal description of the syntax, applying the PET philosophy, the AI suddenly started generating perfect, correct code. In the age of AI, a little inconsistency isn't just a typo. It's a critical failure. So, after this whole 30-year saga, what's the real takeaway? It's simple. The value was never in that super complex tool. It was always in the simple, powerful idea behind it. Think about this shift. The old problem was a human one. We just don't have the time to make our docs perfectly consistent. The new mandate, though, is a technical one. An AI requires perfect consistency to be useful. Your documentation has basically become a direct programming interface for the AIs your users rely on every day. An inconsistent sentence isn't just a typo anymore. It's a bug that causes the AI to give bad answers. And here's the best part of all this. After finally abandoning that massive, complicated tool, the author's advice now is to start small. You don't need 200 macros to do this. He actually built a proof of concept in just 100 lines of Python. So the real takeaway isn't that you need to go adopt some specific complex tool. It's about embracing this philosophy of automation and consistency in your own work, however you can. The author's final message is simple, and it's direct. Go out and write PET documentation. This isn't about mourning some failed 30-year project anymore. It's about realizing that its core idea is more important today than it has ever been. The age of AI readers is here, and they demand the kind of consistency this philosophy was built for all along. Which leaves all of us with one really crucial question. Your documentation has a new audience. It's literal, it's powerful, and it's not human. So the question you have to ask yourself is your documentation ready for its new AI reader? Thanks for joining us on The Explainer.